Have you ever wondered what it's like to stare death in the face and come back with a new sense of purpose? Welcome to the Enlightened Life Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Allen. In today's episode, we're diving into the phenomenon of near-death experiences with Ash Perrow, a survivor who lived to tell the tale. Ash's story is nothing short of remarkable. Having experienced a near-death event in 2016 that completely reshaped his life, he now helps others overcome adversity, silence their inner critics, and live with greater purpose. As a coach, musician, and conscious living advocate, Ash shares his unique journey from battling PTSD and depression to embracing a life aligned with love, creativity, and personal growth. He'll be unpacking not just his own powerful transformation, but the broader implications of near-death experiences and how they can lead to profound shifts in consciousness. So whether you're seeking inspiration to heal, expand your potential, or simply gain insight into the mysteries of life beyond death, you're in for a truly thought-provoking conversation. Let's dive in. Hey Ash, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Scott. An absolute pleasure to be here with you.
I thought I lost you for a second. I thought I lost the volume.
Yeah.
You couldn't hear me. Nice to have you, Ash. You know, I was thinking about this since you and I chatted, and I've made some notes about things that we should maybe talk about, but I feel like with these sorts of things, it's best to maybe start at the beginning. Can you share with us the moment you realized you were having a near-death experience and what that felt like for you?
So I was in hospital and I'd gone in for back surgery, which incidentally came from not listening to my intuition, which was a pattern in my life, was not listening to my intuition. And I mention it because it's this thread that came in my near-death experience. And I'd gone in for surgery. The surgery went well, but during the operation, the surgeons tore a vein and they didn't know they had torn a vein. And so the next morning, the physio came in to get me up for rehab. And he said, just sit on the edge of the bed and we'll start your exercises. So that night I'd been in a lot of pain, excruciating pain all night. And I sat on the edge of the bed and I looked down at my thigh, and my thigh was about twice the size of what it normally is. And I looked at the physio and I said, my leg's not normally like this. And he said, oh, you'll be okay. We'll just get you up. And I stood up and then I just collapsed. And he pressed the red emergency button next to the bed. The siren went off. The emergency team came in and they started putting the oxygen mask on me. By this stage, I was bathed in this cold sweat all over my body, like an icy sweat. And they were trying to put the ECG monitors on my chest and they wouldn't stick. And I could hear everything that was happening and I could also see. And one of my thoughts was, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. There was kind of the eternal optimist in me. I'll be okay. And they got the ECGs on. They started talking about my blood pressure. And I could also hear them say, he's not breathing. He doesn't have a pulse. And at this stage, I was still thinking, I'll be okay. And I was very conscious of where everybody was in the room. So by this time, one of the surgeons was in the room. He was sort of standing towards the foot of the bed. The physio was over in the left-hand corner. And there was somebody taking notes in the right-hand corner. And everything that the medical staff would say, I could see this person taking notes. And so, even in this moment with all these things happening, I was like, oh, that's interesting. That person's taking notes. And then I heard them talking about my blood pressure, and one of the staff said, his blood pressure's 52/36. And I thought, I'm dying. And of course, I still can't breathe at this point, right? Like there's nothing happening in my chest. My chest is not going up or down. I just can't breathe. And I thought, this is dying. I'm dying. And then I experienced this immense sadness. Nobody I loved was in the room. And it was just an excruciating sadness that here I am about to die and no one that I love is with me. And then I blacked out. And so my experience was firstly surprise because I was aware that I had blacked out, but it wasn't like fainting, right? Fainting, blackout, wake up, what happened to me? Whereas this experience, I blacked out and I became ripples. And I was these ripples just going out infinitely in all directions. And I remember thinking, I am the ripples are me. And it was such a curious experience. And I had this deep sense of being myself. I always had this little preconception that when we die, we become these sort of enlightened beings, or might become like, like a Buddha being, or
Sure.
whatever I had heard before. And I was so surprised. I was just me, and I had no physical pain whatsoever. I had no emotional pain. And as I was there in this experience, the ripples just kept going out and out and out. And I was those ripples. And I was very aware, this is me dying. I'm dying right now. And then I started to say, I want to stay. And I said, oh, I want to stay for my partner. And the ripples were still going out. I want to stay for the kids. The ripples were still going out. And there was this just knowing that I am still dying here. And then there was this shift in me that occurred where a warmth came over me and I said, I want to stay for the work that I do and walk the planet from my heart. The instant I expressed that, straight back into my body, I opened my eyes. I heard them say, we've got a pulse, he's breathing. I was in level 11 pain because I'd lost so much blood internally that it was pressing on my organs. I started moaning and screaming. That's how painful it was to come back into my body. And there was also this gratitude, oh, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. And so from there was this inquiry that started, why did I have that experience?
So
and
can I
lots
can
of
I ask
doubting
you?
that I even had that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to ask you, just because this sounds a little bit different than some of the other people that I know that have had these types of experiences. When I've talked to others, there is a feeling of, I don't want to come back. It was just beautiful. For you, did you experience any of that, or was it just a sense of sadness that you were alone and sadness that you were dying?
So I didn't have a sense of sadness once I had blacked out. But what I had was this desire. I'll call it a desire, but it wasn't with the physical emotion. Like if we think of feelings, right? Feelings that we feel them. It wasn't like that. It was this wanting to stay. And I imagine if I went further into my near-death experience, I think that was my point of no return. I had reached that point of no return. And having spoken to a friend who has worked in emergency for over 20 years, he said you were as close as you could possibly go.
Did you feel as though, so when you talk about blacking out, was it a blacking out without a loss of consciousness? If you, I mean, and I'm trying to put this into sort of a human context, but you were aware of things. That's why I asked that question. Yeah.
Yeah, great description, Scott.
It's hard to imagine. Was there any sensations or images that were unexpected for you? Or was the whole thing just completely unexpected?
The whole thing was very unexpected, but the actual being of ripples, I'd never experienced something like that before, where I was something else and something else was me at the same time. So that was very striking. And also, as I expressed about walking the planet from my heart and staying for the work that I do, there was a download of images. So it wasn't like I came back with a manual. This is step A, this is step B. But I had like a download of possibilities of what life could look like. And leading up to the near-death experience, life had been very challenging. I'd had PTSD from 2005. I'd had severe depression, adrenal fatigue. The actual relationship that I was in at that time, it was very challenging. We were both doing our best, but it wasn't working. And 3 weeks after I got out of hospital, that relationship split up.
Wow. That's fast. I mean, that alone would have probably kept some people together for a little bit, to get through that moment. Did you encounter loved ones or? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember reflecting at the time, a near-death experience like this would either make or break a relationship. It'd either bring us closer or actually, create the separation that was required. And that's what happened. And so for me, my health was very, very poor. There was a lot of complications that I went through. It took me almost 8 months to get back to full-time work. And it was part of the universe going, okay, you have to start again, start from zero.
Did you encounter any loved ones or other beings while you were there? Nothing.
No, I didn't. No. There's the very deep connection to myself. And so that's something that I carry with me all the time now, is that all of us have this deep, unique, conscious self. Some people might call it a soul that we're walking around with. It's this like fingerprint that we all have. And so that was something that was integrated, shall we say, in that experience.
Any fear?
No fear.
How about now? I mean, in terms of passing again,
Hmm.
like, are you afraid to go down
Yep.
that road
Hmm.
again?
I love my life so much now. It's like, oh, what a beautiful, beautiful life. So there's that aspect, and of course, so many dualities in life, but that aspect where life is so beautiful, it's become something I could not have imagined. And then the other aspect that it's just a passing over into something else when it happens, and that this consciousness that we all have and all are, like the ripples, we all are them, and the ripples are us. It's there, and so I don't have the fear that I once had, but also what I have now is a deep gratitude for the last 8 years and how life has been and how I've embraced life in the last 8 years.
How do you think your experience shaped your understanding of life and death? And do you think that it challenged any of the beliefs that you had before this event took place? I mean, I know you were very probably tuned in even then, but in a much probably different way than you are now.
Yeah, very much so. It's for me, it's changed everything. It's changed this. I don't think I've valued my life before as much as I do now. So now it's like, okay, I'm only here for a short while. What am I going to do? What am I going to experience? What do I want in my life? What do I need to do to have those things in my life? Because here I am in this amazing playground where there's so many different experiences to have in this life. What do I choose? And coming from that place, so different. Whereas before I was a victim to life. Life was happening to me and squashing me. Whereas now it's okay, what can I experience here?
Yeah. And I love that because somehow and I want to sort of go down that road a little bit, but I feel like somehow, like many people that have had these experiences, they come back transformed, they come back changed. I have a friend who also had a near death experience, and he's a filmmaker. He made a film about this, but it wasn't so much about crossing into the light. It was about the after effects of coming back from a near death experience, because many people, although they love their life when they first come back, a lot of them didn't want to be here. And I still think, from what I've heard, some of their situations are very, very different. Do you have a sense why near death experiences are so varied from person to person?
I think we're all here to learn different things. And there's similarities that happen across the whole population, but we're here to experience different things and learn different things about ourselves. And so I think that's part of the variation in near-death experiences. That, okay, you have your own unique fingerprint. This is how you will receive the information. There's 8 billion ways to heal, or many, many more. And so this is the offering for you in this moment as you almost pass over so that you can come back and then live whatever so for example, Caroline Myss, who talks about sacred contracts, right? We all have a sacred contract in life, that the near-death experience is connected to that. And we can either take the experience and learn from it, or some people go, oh, that was weird, and they don't make changes. Whereas for me, it was, okay, I had this experience. I can either believe what the doctors said, and the doctor said, you went close. We weren't worried though, right? This is a doctor. And for me, I'm like, okay, I had this profound experience. I'm going to trust my experience.
Because in the state that you were in, you weren't breathing, you were blacked out. Did you feel like you weren't breathing at that moment? Was there a panic before you blacked out that you weren't breathing? So you were aware at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was aware, but I wouldn't call it a panic. It was almost like I was watching what was happening. It was as if I had the awareness of what was happening, but it wasn't happening to me. And so I think that's where the aspect of being very aware of what I was thinking and what people were saying and where they were in the room was that I was being able to observe what was happening.
And it feels as real to you as what you did yesterday? I mean, is it that kind of reality when we talk about I was a ripple, or I remember this, that, and the other thing once I crossed? it's not like one of those funky dreams you wake up from and you think, well, that was a little bit odd. It was a dream, but this is real. It's as if you were, it's just like yesterday, as if you were at whatever you did yesterday, going to the store, going to a restaurant, visiting with your family.
I would say the experience was integrated into my body, right? We can talk about ideas and have an intellectual understanding. I had the experiential understanding, and it was like that was put into my body. This is what it feels like. And of course, I would say it's a remembering, right? It wasn't something new. It was more of a remembering. This is what it feels like.
Very interesting. How did you process the emotional and spiritual impact it had on you?
Well, great question. Initially, there was a lot of doubt. Did this happen? And then eventually I got to the point where I thought, well, if I just fainted, how was I still able to think and have this experience? So there was that level of processing. Another level was I couldn't speak about dying with nobody in the room with me without crying. I just couldn't even get the words out. So I had therapy, I think maybe 1 or 2 sessions to help me process that. And so I can't actually remember the session or what was the piece that allowed me to be able to speak about it without the tears. And then it was something that we all do is we create a picture in our head of what life can be like. And then we create questions. How do we get to that? Mm-hmm. And so the questions, how do I live life from my heart? Why wasn't I doing that before? What's the work that I do? And those questions, they were running in the background all the time. And so it started to change how I lived. And so I was like, okay. And I started going to retreats and doing a lot deeper personal work and things like that to go, okay, what is my heart? Where is my heart? What does that mean? Truly, what was stopping me? Why wasn't I living this way before? And it was the near-death experience was an aha moment. And I thought, I thought I was living from my heart, but I wasn't. How do I live from my heart? I'm going to find out. This is my contract. How do I live from my heart?
And that's one of those things where, what does that even mean? And in terms of, how we live, how do we even know when we don't even fully understand perhaps the concept of it? I mean, we think we might, but nothing is ever as it seems.
Yeah, which is one of the beauties of life. It's like going into the inquiry. Where's this taking me? What am I going to find out? Of course, we all want freedom, right? We want the freedom to be ourselves, feel like ourselves. But it's the beauty, the inquiry. Oh, I went down this laneway and that wasn't quite what I expected. I'm going to take a little turn this way. And it's all the quest to experience ourselves in this amazing world and how we can experience ourselves in the fullness of ourselves. Because for me, that's the greatest gift, is when we experience ourselves in the world. And then from that place, it's much easier to help others. It's much easier to live a life of purpose because of the connection to our true self.
Yeah. Yeah. And, then of course, the question is, how do you step back into your life after an event like that? There must be some sense of disconnection from what you were to what you have now become or what you are becoming once you come back.
Yeah. And it's, for me personally, that experience, it was gradual. As in the experience of coming back into life, it was gradual. Okay, the first thing I need to do is get healthy. And so I just focused on health and, I couldn't walk. It took me quite a while to be able to walk properly. I ended up with a huge blood clot which went from my abdomen down to my ankle, which was crazy, right? The surgeon had never seen the vascular surgeon had never seen anything like that in 25 years of practicing. And so that was my first thing, was health. And of course, we heal the body, we're healing the heart, we're healing things about ourselves in the process.
How do you think your experience influenced your healing from PTSD and depression?
Life had been hard, so I was doing my best, but it was like I just couldn't get it together. And something else I'd been trying to work through for years was adrenal fatigue, which was a result of my PTSD and not sleeping and feeling like I was on alert and those kind of things. But post near-death experience, they just seemed to fade away. I didn't experience depression anymore. I didn't have the physical symptoms of high level anxiety, right? So if I forgot to put the bins out, I remember once I realized I forgot to put the bins out. That was like a tiger attack of anxiety. It was like I was being attacked by a tiger. And I remember thinking, this is crazy. It's just the bins. That had gone. And I'm not sure if it was because it took me so long to recover, if the body had time to heal, right? I had to come back very gently, which pre-near-death experience, that wasn't my nature to do things gently. It was to push through. So it could have been the near-death experience and what somebody might call a spontaneous healing, or it could have been the gradual coming back into life that allowed me to heal those things. And not to mention the personal work and the therapy and the learning around, well, I love that description. My past was in front of me. That's what was stopping me moving forward, was my past was in front of me, blocking me.
Yeah.
And so I went deeply, deeply into the past. Well, what are these hurts? And of course, we all want to avoid pain. However, it's the gateway, right? There's a gateway through pain if we can do it with support and we can do it well and learn the resources and have those tools for navigating pain, because we can't avoid it in life. So we may as well learn how to manage it the best we can.
Yes. Yes, I agree. How do you think the experience shifted the way you approach the work that you do now? Were you doing some of this work before, or is this all new?
So this was new. So I'd been a school teacher for 22 years, and I'd wanted to quit teaching since my second year. And I was also a musician, and I still play music. Just at the moment, I'm not performing, but I'd go off and become a musician for a while, and it would get hard and wouldn't work out, or I'd burn out, and then I'd come back to teaching. Then I would burn out, but just keep teaching. And so I got to this point in my career about 2 years after my near-death experience, and I was content. I remember just walking out of the school and hopping in my car and just thinking, everything's just as it should be. And then the voice of intuition popped into my head and it said, it's time to play bigger. It's time to change. And I just thought, I remember thinking to myself, you're joking. Are you serious? I just got to this point where I'm finally content with my work. And then the paperwork and demands went through the roof of my job. And it became very to the point where my happiness would drop right away. And I thought, okay, I really have to make a change. And so in January 2020, I resigned and okay, I'm going to go play music. I'm going to live the life of a professional musician. I'm going to travel on the road, play music. I started booking gigs, and then March 2020, the pandemic came and everything was cancelled. Right. And during that time, I thought, well, I have lots of friends that keep coming to me, asking me for advice, and I don't like giving advice. So I'm going to do a coaching course so I don't have to give them advice. I can just help them without having to give advice. Sure. And from there, it just kept growing. I was lucky enough that I put a near-death experience video on YouTube after much resistance, and that went well, and I ended up on podcasts, and my coaching career started that way. And it wasn't me doing much. It was just me surrendering.
I love that word, surrender, because I've never had a near-death experience, so I can't claim that. But I did have that surrender moment where I said, it was like waving the white flag. Okay, I give up. I surrender. I'm done. And from that moment on, everything kind of shifted and became easier and more fulfilling. And so I understand that. And I would imagine that somewhere along that path between school teacher and musician and the pandemic, there was this conscious decision to live life more fully from your heart, and be happy and live in that light that you now live in, which I think is really great. It's really beautiful. Were there any practices, tools, or insights you began using after experience to stay aligned with the new perspective that you gained? Was it tough to stay on track, or do you think it was just easy at that point?
It was whatever the opposite of easy. it turned that up by 10. I came back to gratitude, but immense pain and suffering, emotional suffering, physical pain. And I literally had to fight for my life, as in, those patterns that I had in the past, and I mentioned victim before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I still had the old conditioning. So I had the experience, but
Yes.
I hadn't evolved into the new person. And so for that to happen, I had to keep showing up and keep doing the personal work. There's so many people that have helped me along the way, which I have such gratitude for, healers and therapists and those people who share their work with the world and make differences to people in the world, because I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you if it wasn't for those people who have helped me.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. Did your understanding of human potential and consciousness evolve after your near-death experience?
It did. So one was, okay, I've got this life that I've been given, and I would phrase it, I've been given a second life. I've got this second life. I want to live it to the fullest. And so in that quest, it's like, okay, what was stopping me from living to my potential? And these days, without being conceited or full of myself, it's like, okay, these days I am smarter. I do recall information better. I do have all these aspects of myself that were already there, but they weren't activated. It was like this wet blanket was on me, holding me back. Whereas now it's like, okay, the love of learning, the thirst for knowledge, the thirst for experiences and sharing those and helping people. It's like this magical thing. But it was gradual because I had to work through the conditioning of what was blocking me.
Sure.
And so lots of therapy. I even went down the track because I had the question, I experienced consciousness. What was that? So meditation, exploration with plant medicines, all those kind of things. Like, okay, what happened to me? What is consciousness? The questions driving the behavior. The phenomenal healing that I've experienced. It's, the version I was 8 years ago would not be able to comprehend that life is possible like it is now.
And that's beautiful. It's beautiful. I remember talking with someone once who said that everyone should have one NDE and near death experience, but without the ND part. Just the experience, so that
Yeah.
we could be transformed. Nobody wants to have to go through that, what you went through, but it's the experience of this understanding. I think for listeners who are going through their own personal challenges, do you have anything that you could say to someone struggling with self-doubt or adversity based on what you've learned from your experience?
When I had severe PTSD, and there were times I didn't know if I was going to make it through the day, like life was that black and dark. I had this voice in my head that said, keep going, keep going. And for me now, that's the voice, the inner guidance that we all have. There's something in us, and it's telling us which path to take. Just take the next step. We don't have to know the outcome, because life, we never know the outcome. Although, the outcome of life is some sort of death, right, for all of us. But it's like, okay, keep going. What's the next step? And show up for yourself. If you show up for yourself, you're going to get through whatever it is. You're going to get to this point where at some point there's peace. At some point there's this sense of freedom, that you can be connected to the world and connected to yourself. But you have to keep going. You have to take the next step, even if that's just getting out of bed when the alarm goes off rather than pressing snooze. Right? Just that act in itself, that can change your life. We just need this little 1%. If you think of a ship going across the ocean, it changes 1 degree. Right? Starting at Japan, it changes 1 degree. Instead of ending in Alaska, it's down towards South America. Just getting out of bed when that alarm goes off, that could change everything. So you just have to make those little steps. And then the next day, make the little steps. It's going to compound. You're going to look back at some point and go, wow, I can't believe how far I've come. And most people keep looking at the top of the mountain. That's where I should be. That's where I should be. Whereas the power place is actually, how far have I come? What is that internal power that I have that has enabled me to come from where I was to where I am now. So for the listener that's listening right now, you have it in you. The power's in there. You just have to show up and take the next step. Once you've done that, guess what? Show up, take the next step. It might not be easy, but it's going to compound.
Is that the lesson, do you think, from your experience, that there's reason to be here? There's hope.
Oh my gosh. And it's right there waiting. It's right there waiting. I would not want anybody to go through the level of suffering that I've been through as with the PTSD and depression and things like that. I would not want anybody to do that. But the mere fact that I'm still here and I kept going and life changed over time, that I can look back now and in this present moment, it seems like back then was a dream and that now is the reality. Other people can experience that too. It's right there. It's just waiting for them and they just have to keep going.
That's really profound. That's really profound. Do you have a sense, because I know people are probably thinking this as they're listening to this, had you continued on and not come back, did you have a sense of what was beyond where you were? Did you have a feeling that there was something even more wonderful than what you were experiencing?
I can't say for sure, but the certainty I have is that we are consciousness. That, you would have heard many people talk about a web of consciousness, and it's very difficult to put it into words, but we are consciousness. We have this existence that we are, as does everybody. I have it, you have it, and somewhere, somehow, I don't know the details, it's there, and it's there for us to experience the joy of being ourselves, which is one of the reasons we come into the physical.
Yeah. I would love for you to share with the listeners what you do and anything else we haven't talked about that you'd like to share with them. But tell them a little bit perhaps about your work and, if they'd like to reach you or whatever. I'd love to give you this time just to share that with people.
Thank you, Scott. So people come to me when they want to connect to their heart, when they want to create a life that they love. So one aspect is I do one-to-one coaching, and I help people with transforming their lives. So without being too cliche, right? The word transformation. Yeah. It's probably a better word is making transitions. So people who have been in a relationship leave a relationship, people who are changing careers, people who want to create a business. And the other aspect is that I work with heart-centered professionals and lead them to create their personal brand and their messaging so that they can actually get their message out in the world, which for me, that comes from having experienced the work of so many wonderful people and being so passionate about what that work can do for the world that my inner guidance is that, okay, this is part of your work, is to help those people. So if somebody's listening, they feel like they resonate with that, there's lots of free resources. They can contact me through my website. Yeah, we'd love to have a conversation to help them create what it is that they want in their lives.
And that is ashperrow.com, right? ASHPERROW. Yeah. I'm going to put that information too in the description of the episode so that if people are listening, they can just go right down to the description and click on the link to connect with your website to learn more about what you do. But this has really been a beautiful story. And I think that it's so profound. I think we could all benefit from this. We all have something, right? We all have something that holds us back. So many people suffer from depression and PTSD or whatever it is that they have. And, you've come back from that in a way to live your life in the most beautiful, true, authentic way from the heart. And if people are listening, reach out to Ash if you feel like this resonates with you and that you would like to maybe learn some of what he had to learn. It's the E without the ND, right? I think I'm going to have you say, you take advantage of the experience without the near-death part. But Ash, I thank you so much for being here. It's really been just a joy to chat with you. Ash's story is a beautiful reminder that even in the face of life's greatest challenges, transformation is always possible. If you've been inspired by his experience and insights, be sure to visit his website. Again, that's www.ashperrow.com, where you'll find a treasure trove of free resources designed to help you step into your own power and healing From the Purposeful Impact Quiz to tools for connecting to your inner guidance, there's something here for everyone looking to live a more fulfilling, heart-centered life. And while you're online, don't forget to check out my website at www.mediumscottallen.com. I'd love to meet you and help you along your journey towards enlightenment. Book a reading, attend one of my live events, or grab your copy of my new book, In the Presence of Light, A Funeral Director's Journey from Mourning to Mediumship. Finally, I'll be hosting a mystical journey at sea on the Carnival celebration from December 7th through 14th, 2025. We're heading to the Eastern Caribbean, and I'll be sharing private readings and so much more. So head on over to my website if you'd like to get more information about that and to find out how you can join me on this cruise. Thank you again, Ash, for sharing your wisdom. And to all of you listening, may you continue to be inspired, heal, and grow. Until next time, keep living consciously, connected to your heart, while living your best enlightened life. We'll see you next time.